What's going on, everybody? So now that the football season is here, I can officially say that we will now have Browns After Dark Sunday night, Monday night, and if that is not enough for you, we got another one on Thursday. So if you've ever said to yourself, hey, I wonder where I can meet with people and talk about the Browns, that is the place for you. Check us out at Browns After Dark on Twitter. The link will be in the description down below. Times will also be posted on that Twitter page, so be sure to give us a follow, turn on your notifications, and come let us know what you think. We want to know your thoughts, so I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Also, just want to let you guys know that this channel is partnered with the Offside Sports Network, and if you go to the Offside's website, you'll find yourself some new DF Sports merch out today. Got a couple hoodies and t-shirts up there, so link will be in the description on that, but I would appreciate it if you guys would go check it out. Appreciate all the support. Follow Offside Sports Network on Twitter. Go check out the website. If you're looking for my stuff, go to Shop Collection. Scroll down, you will find it. Appreciate all the support.
All right, and welcome back to the Browns Beat podcast. My name's Tristan. I'm here with my man Derek, and today we are going to be going over quite a few things for the Browns. The season kicked off with a bang, pun intended. My goodness, that Panthers game, what a game, Derek. What a game. But first things first, right, because we're going to dissect this Panthers game right off the top here. But, I mean, we got to hit the headline. I mean, Cade York, 58 yards on his rookie debut. A lot of people criticized us using a fourth-round draft pick on Cade York. Is this an early sign that this is going to be a pick that we look back on and say it was worth every penny?
Oh, I tweeted it out. This is why you draft a kicker. I mean, this guy... Everybody was talking about it pre-draft. Oh, we don't need to draft a kicker. Like, they never work out. And everybody was talking about Dicker, the kicker. And I'm like, guys, it is very, very simple. Like, I know the NFL draft is anything but simple for a lot of people. But for me, there was literally one answer. And if you didn't get him, you didn't get the answer. And the answer was Cade York. The guy, his entire career, ice in his veins, big clutch situations. Like we saw Sunday, he's made him his entire career. So that's why when I knew it was coming down to Cade York, I was a little bit nervous, but I was very, very confident. It wasn't like before where it was automatic. Nope, we lost, same old Browns. It was like, no, this is somebody we can count on. I know everybody's going to be thinking, oh, he's a rookie, but to me, I wasn't really surprised, to be honest with you, because this is what you should expect out of Cade York. This is who he is.
Yeah, spot on. And I tweeted out right after the Panthers kicked that field goal to go ahead, I tweeted out, you are about to see why we drafted a kicker in the fourth round. And like, it was one of those moments where, and I will actually paint a picture for you all of you listeners right now. Okay. So week one, I decided, my family decided to all go to my uncle's in Ohio, which I live in Pennsylvania, but he's in Ohio. So we went over to his, and we're sitting there watching the football game, and he is the stereotypical Browns fan that's been through it all, right? Where you cannot have any moments of, you know what? I know we're down, but I think we're going to fight back. It was as the drive was developing for the Panthers, he was like, man, we lost it. This is it. It's gone for us. We already lost. And it was like, all right, they're not even in field goal range yet. Just calm down. And then, of course, they got in the field goal range and kicked it. And he was like, oh, yep, we're screwed. But then he said something which I wasn't prepared for, because he's a very pessimistic Browns fan. He's been through the worst of it. He's watched every single horror show way to lose a football game ever. And he said something that I wasn't prepared for. And it was, you know what? If the offense can get to the 50, we got a chance. And I was like, whoa, okay. The 50? He was like, you know what? No, it's probably got to be the 40, And I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of agree with you there. You know what? If they can get to the 40, we got to I don't know as though it's a really good chance, but it's a chance, And you know what? Jacoby Brissett, we'll get into it later today. He did struggle throughout the game, and it certainly wasn't as smooth as I think most Browns fans would like to see. But he was at his best when we needed him to be. He did what Baker Mayfield struggled to do, which was go down the field when we needed it most and find a way to win us the ball game. And that's what he did. He got us into a position where Cade York, even though he's a rookie, we know how talented this guy is. And even in that situation, he got us to that situation. And then it was on Cade York. And he steps up, and keep in mind, my uncle is behind the couch. He's pacing around like, oh my goodness. This is like, oh my goodness, we have a shot. And then right as Cade York trots out onto the field, I was like, oh no. And I got up from the couch. I was arched over, like, that meme where it's like you like arch over with the controller in your hands and you start trying. That's how I was. Okay. And then I get up and I go around and I'm right next to him, hunched over, looking at the TV. And that ball gets snapped, placed down perfectly. It kicks up. It looks like he's shanking it, and my heart starts to sink. But then it's like I haven't seen that beautiful of a curl on a Ronaldo strike. Like it just curled. It was like, and the moment that I saw it starting to curl, I was like, "There's no way it's gonna miss," And so I was like, and then as I see like it's about to cross the uprights, I just turned to him and I was like, "Oh!" And he was like, "Ah!" And then we high-fived, and then the best part, we started hugging each other, jumping up and down. We were like, "Yeah!" Just going absolutely nuts. And the rest of my family, like, they're not necessarily as diehard Browns fans. They were all just laughing at us, but I didn't care. It was awesome. And, obviously the kick goes through, the game finishes and whatever, right? And so we're sitting there and we're like, look at us Browns fans, like, jumping around about winning by 2 points against the Panthers off a kick. This is something we would get excited about, and absolutely, because this is something we haven't seen before in Cleveland. That type of situation goes against us 10 times out of 10 in years prior. Yeah, but not that game, not that kicker, and not that moment, which that was amazing. It was an amazing moment. And it took the headlines all by itself in just a matter of seconds. But the headline coming into this game, Baker Mayfield's revenge game against the Cleveland Browns. Derek, as far as a revenge game goes, how would you rate how well Baker got his revenge in this one?
Well, before we do that, I want to talk about my end of game reaction because Columbus, Ohio, lovely capital city of the great state of Ohio, decided to play the Cincinnati Bengals and Pittsburgh Steelers instead of the Browns game, which I understand a lot of Pittsburgh fans in the Columbus area, a lot of Bengals fans, maybe not as much, but, coming off the Super Bowl, I understand. Now, for those of you who have never had this struggle, trying to find a good stream for games that are not being played on your local TV can be quite the challenge. And for the I'd probably say first quarter and maybe halfway through the second quarter was me just storming around my room, probably saying things to myself, in an angrily fashion, trying to find a stream so I can watch the damn game. And finally, I found one. I got one that worked. And I should have known because I've used this one a billion times, but I forgot it. Anyway, long story short, with the streams, it's a little bit behind. So it got down to that end, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. Jim Donovan, Nathan Zagura, be that voice in my ear. And so I turned on the Cleveland Browns app, and I put in a headphone, and I listened. And I watched on the TV as what I was watching was literally like 2 minutes prior as far as what they were talking about. And I was like, should I just watch it on TV or should I listen? And I was like, I can't miss it. Like, I just cannot miss it in real time. I have to listen. So in the typical old school radio fashion, I'm walking around my room, I'm pacing, and I find out where we get to. And by the way, we'll talk about it later, but the clutch plays that were made to get there, absolutely fantastic. Donovan Peoples-Jones all day long came up with big receptions. And shout out to Anthony Schwartz. As much things as I've said about him, he came up big when we needed him to. on that one reception. I believe it was like on third down or something.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, so I'm listening, right? And I find out where the ball was placed, and I'm like, we got it. I'm like, we got it. This is Cade York. Nobody's gonna expect this. But at the same time, there's those two voices, right? Everybody talks about the angel and the demon on your shoulder. I wouldn't necessarily call it that. I would just say the Browns angel and the Browns demon that has been on every single Browns fan, I feel like, for a long time, of like, hey, we're gonna mess this up. We're gonna mess this up. And a lot of times that voice has been right, but this was different. And this is kind of what I want to get into. The moment of just the snap perfect kick. It looks like it's a shank and it floats right back in. And you could see it on Cade York's face. He knew that was going in. That's just how he kicks footballs. And the call on the radio with Jim Donovan and Nathan Zagura is something I will never forget. I will never forget that moment. The last time we won an opening game, I was 2 years old. And here I am at 20. And that's how it happens. But let's look at this from the big picture, Tristan.
Mhm.
And this gets into what you asked me. Let's just talk about the storylines, right? The Browns have not won an opening game in forever. You're playing on the road at Carolina, facing your former starting quarterback, who has polarized, divided, and shredded this fan base in this city for 4 years. I would say at least 3 years is when it started.
Mhm.
And who does the game go to? The position that the Cleveland Browns have not been able to get right since Phil Dawson, Cade York. Like, just think about that story. Like, that game in this moment, or that moment, I should say, is something that I will never, ever forget. Backup quarterback, haven't won an opening game, on the road. You're counting on a kicker, which you've never had, and guess what? You'll win. How many people said, the Panthers are going to win? Nobody. Browns aren't going to win this game. Baker's going to be incredible. To your point, how was the Baker Mayfield revenge game? Well, it looked like the Browns defense got revenge on him more than he got revenge on us in the first 3 quarters, because that defense flew around and dominated. Myles Garrett dominated. You could just tell. Like, you could tell they did not like Baker Mayfield. And it was fun to see, but that fourth quarter, there are clear issues that, we'll probably talk about later.
Mhm.
But revenge, no. Cade York said, take your revenge, so turn that sideways and shove it, in
Yep.
the old line from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Some of you remember that, but anyway, that just, Tristan, to me, the moment, the story, I'll never forget it. It was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, I love how Nathan Zagura in his first game in the Browns radio booth just eats the microphone at the end of the game. That's amazing, It was a hell of a moment. And yeah, absolutely. That Jim Donovan call, just, it gives you butterflies. I don't think anybody who does radio for NFL teams exclusively, like one exclusive NFL team, does it better than Jim Donovan. I mean, every time there's a big moment, he gets it spot on. So shout out to Jim Donovan. I doubt he's watching this. I doubt he ever will. But if you ever do, we love you and respect you, Jim. But yeah, I mean, feeding off of what you were talking about with Baker Mayfield, I mean, like, anybody who roots for Baker, anybody who knows Baker, which us Browns fans do, that the games that he shows up for the most are the ones where people are doubting him. People are, thinking that he can't come out on top. It's not possible. Or, that, or just games where he feels like he just the aura about him as a human, like games where he feels like his manhood or whatever is at attack. I can't really even describe it. It's tough to explain, but there are certain games And I felt this way about Cincinnati the one year where we came back to beat them, where it's like Baker's persona won't let him lose this game. And that's why I thought this game was going to be for Baker. And I thought, you know what, if we're going to beat Baker, the defense is going to have to be amazing. Baker's going to get his plays, and Jacoby's going to have to be amazing. But that wasn't the case. I mean, Baker Mayfield, I mean, what the hell, dude? I mean, you release these T-shirts that are off the chain, like all of this shit, right? Oh, sorry for swearing.
You're good.
But anyways, like all of that stuff, like building up this game, and you fumble a snap like 5 or 6 times. Like that's like quarterback basics 101. Here's how you catch the football out of shotgun. This is how you take the football from the center. Like he messed it up. And like it's like I really hope for Baker, right? I've said this in the past. I hate Baker, right, because of the way he ended things here with the fans and the whole true Cleveland fan stuff like that. That podcast just annoyed the hell out of me. Right now, I will say I'm thankful for Baker for everything he's done in the past. Like we've talked about this before, but like if you wanted to come out and prove that, prove to the people who backed you through all of this, all of the people that said that we should have kept you instead of going out and trying to get Deshaun, right? Even if those people like felt that Deshaun was a better player, but felt like keeping you because they felt like you were good enough. What the hell is that, dude? I mean, like so many people back Baker Mayfield to their grave. Like we see it, whether they're a Sooner, whether they're a Baker bro, whatever, right? And it's a Baker Mayfield moment where he comes up and rises from the dead and snatches victory. Like that's what it is for him. Like that's what this game should have been, and it wasn't. Now I will say, this isn't all just because Baker Mayfield sucked. The Browns defense was great. It was great. I mean, outside of, and we'll dive into the Browns defense a little bit, outside of a few plays, that Browns defense probably played a damn near perfect game of football. Mm-hmm. And that is super exciting as a Browns fan. It's super exciting seeing how well your defense can play. Because the Panthers, I mean, they've got Christian McCaffrey, who just a couple of seasons ago was viewed as the number 1 running back in the NFL before obviously his injury issues. You got DJ Moore, a promising young receiver. You got Robbie Anderson across from him, and Robbie Anderson a couple of seasons ago had an amazing season, and he's been omega talented. And there's even more that I can't even think of. Terrace Marshall, I believe, is there. So like, they've got talent there. Arguably at the position groups more than the Browns, other than the running back room. Hello, that's easy, right? But the receiving core is deep there. Okay. So it's like you can't necessarily, like as Baker Mayfield, you can't say like, oh, well, that's just what happens when you don't have talent around you. Like, no, dude, you had enough there to beat us. You did. You had enough there to beat us, and you didn't. And with the failure to execute on offense that we had, he should have beat us, but he couldn't. So hats off to the Browns defense. Did an amazing job. But Jacoby Brissett, Derek, do you think Jacoby Brissett is good enough to take us through 11 games? Do you think he'll improve?
This is a very interesting conversation because I look at it from 2 sides, and I made a separate video talking about this. So if you've not seen that already, please watch that and let me know, because the whole purpose of that was to kind of get the consensus of thoughts. For me, Tristan, I don't know about you, I felt like I was watching end of his career Ben Roethlisberger behind the Cleveland Browns offensive line. That's how it felt to me. He was very clunky, you know what I'm saying? Where like everything just did not look smooth. Like the drop back, rolling out, everything. It just looked very Almost like, and this is how I've described Ben for so many years now. It's like watching your uncle relive his glory days trying to play football at the family reunion. You're not fast enough. You're not quick enough. I mean, that's just what it looked like to me. So the interesting thing here is, let's look at the big picture, right? Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt did their thing, and that's what we're going to need every single game. The defense played very well, but Jacoby did not cost you the game. He doesn't have to be perfect. He doesn't have to be great. You know what I'm saying? He just needs to come out and execute his job. And I felt like he kind of did that. What concerns me more is kind of like what we've seen with Baker in the past, where Amari Cooper was torching guys all day long and hardly got a look. David Njoku was open a couple times and did not get a look. And that's concerning to me, because if the Browns are going to be successful, you have to take what they give you. So for Jacoby, I really hope he goes back and looks at the film and kind of sees where he messed up and learns from that. And we'll see heading into this Jets game, which I will be there. So I'm looking forward to that, because if he is missing guys like he did in the Panthers game, we got big problems. We got big problems, because after these first 4 games end, you're not going to be able to just rely on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So will he improve? Will he improve? I should say. I hope. I mean, he is a vet. That is a big thing. And Tristan, I'll kind of counteract this with a question to you. How much of his performance Sunday would you blame on Stefanski for not getting him more time in the preseason? Because for me personally, I do think it played a part. I felt like he looked lost.
And you know what? That's a very, very good question, because for me, and this is my analysis of Jacoby Brissett's game this past Sunday, he was at his best when we needed him to be, right? In that clutch moment, which is fantastic, and it earns you credit in the bank, in my opinion. When you are a quarterback and you're able to come through for the team when they need you to do it the most, you have back credit, right? It puts credit in the bank, which his credit in the bank is going to cover for the rest of the game. Because for me, what it looked like is it just looked like a guy who, you're absolutely right, was uncomfortable and just was scared to let go of the football. Like that's what it felt like to me. Or even when he did, it was like he was second guessing himself a lot. It reminded me a lot of, you said Ben Roethlisberger. It reminded me of Tyrod Taylor when we had Tyrod Taylor before Baker came in, because I remember watching that offense with Tyrod, and the biggest frustration with Tyrod was he was holding onto the ball for too long. He wasn't making quick enough decisions, and he was taking unnecessary sacks and unnecessary pressure. And that's exactly how I felt about Jacoby Brissett's game. And I will say, it's a coin flip whether he improves. I think he will. And here is why. Every single bit of Jacoby's, I should say, not quality performance was because he was second guessing himself. He wasn't trusting what he was seeing. He should be filled with the confidence by Stefanski that, listen, you're the starter, right? And you're not going to lose it until that week 13 game against the Texans or whenever it is. So that should allow him to be able to be confident in knowing that I can make a mistake and I will still be on the playing field. And that's how I feel like he should be treated right now. Going back to answer your first question with that. Yeah, I do believe it is partially on Stefanski. I mean, I don't know as though I'd say it's fully on Kevin Stefanski. At the end of the day, he's not the quarterback out there. But Jacoby certainly wasn't going into the season with the momentum Josh Dobbs had. And when you consider the fact that for a good chunk of change in the preseason, you were wanting to give Deshaun snaps with the first team, which took reps from Jacoby. You were giving Deshaun reps in that first preseason game, which took reps away from Jacoby. And on top of that, you were playing Josh Dobbs more, and that was taking reps away from Jacoby. And this is a completely new offense for Jacoby, a completely new scheme. For me, for me personally, yeah, Kevin Stefanski's got to take some of the blame. Now, will it matter in the long run? That's a great question. I think that if Jacoby is able to iron out the wrinkles in his game that we saw this last week, I think he could have an amazing week against the Jets this week. I really do. I think that the Jets, they're an up-and-coming team, a young team, but they're not there yet. This should be an easier defense to play against than the Panthers. And I'm saying should be because, I mean, like I said, there's young guys on that team. Who knows? They might step up and be unbelievable. It's rookies are inconsistent, so we'll see when we see it. But it should, on paper, be an easier game for Jacoby from the other opposition's defensive standpoint. This is a game where he's got to build up confidence. This has got to be a game where he looks great. And if it is that way, then I think you've filled him with enough confidence and you've proven to him he can do it at this level and playing in this scheme. And I think he can coast until week 12 or 13 when Deshaun comes back. And I think we can trust that he can at least give us a winning record. So, and I guess other key performers in this past game. I mean, we talked about him a little bit. Donovan Peoples-Jones. Wow. This was the guy that we wanted to see last year. The reports coming out of camp last year that Donovan Peoples-Jones was lighting up camp. He was looking unbelievable. He was set to be the Browns' number 2 receiver. He was going to look great last year. I personally believe a lot of that is to blame on Baker's injury because, I mean, Donovan's a deep threat. And, when you have a quarterback that can't throw deep anymore, what are you there for? So, but he had a really good game and he had reliable hands. And I am very glad to see that he's developing. He's getting better. And he's starting to be that guy where it's like, you can almost trust that if you throw him a catchable ball, he's going to catch it. And that's awesome for him. On top of the speed that he already has, and he still has to develop a bit in his route running, but it's improving. It's improving. You can see it. He's creating separation. Watch out because I mean he could really step up here moving forward for this team. And I think you only saw just a glimpse of it last week. He was amazing last week, and I mean, Derek, Donovan Peoples-Jones, man. What's your projection for him for this year? What do you think? What do you think he can develop into this year?
Oh, dude, I am beyond pumped to have seen what we saw from him Sunday for a couple reasons. And I know, yes, it's a long way into the future, but let me get excited for a minute. Looking at how open Amari Cooper was Sunday and how crispy he still is as a route runner. I mean, anybody who says Amari Cooper is not good just does not know what they're talking about. The guy is still very, very talented. For me, it's exciting because, to your question, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is finally, hopefully, I mean, we'll see it Sunday. I think he can step up and be that number 2 now. Then comes, okay, how long is it going to take David Bell? And if by week 11 you have an Amari Cooper who's a number 1 receiver, Donovan Peoples-Jones who's solidified as a number 2, and David Bell coming around, and then you'll see how the rest of the room shakes out and who kind of steps up, who doesn't, where the order lies. When Deshaun Watson returns, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself but dreaming throughout that game. Like, man, Deshaun's in this game. We're up 50,
Oh, dude. I mean, and this is not a shot at Jacoby Brissett. I want to make that clear because we both know what Jacoby is. He's a backup quarterback. That's just what he is. We're not going to expect him to be a great starting quarterback. But just looking at some of the things that happened Sunday and kind of the missed opportunities, oh my gosh. Like it's going to be ridiculous. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that is very, very intriguing.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. And again, reiterating on my end, Jacoby, he's a backup quarterback, a guy who can start for you if, in a pickle you need him to, like the Browns are in. And he'll do a serviceable job. My criticisms aren't of him not necessarily playing up to an elite level. It's more so I just want to see him execute on the big plays, like the Kareem Hunt throw that he missed, the Amari Cooper that he missed, both of those earlier on in the game that were guaranteed 7 points, both of them. He's got to hit those, and there were some other aspects of his game that I think he's got to clean up. But all in all, we both know what Jacoby is. I mean, he's not going to be a guy that's going to single-handedly win us a football game, but he's also not going to be a guy that single-handedly loses us a football game. And that's exactly what we need for these 11 weeks. But moving on from Jacoby, moving on from Donovan Peoples-Jones. Let's get into this defense, man. I mean, let's dive deeper, I should say, because we've briefly brought it up so far this episode. But this defense, man, I mean, holy crap! I mean, there were four or five plays where it was busted coverage, no question about it. And those 4 or 5 plays, the Panthers executed on, Baker executed on. But outside of those 4 or 5 plays, wow, holy cow! Like this team, this defense, if they can carry us as well as Jacoby doing well enough to winning record before Deshaun gets back and we're able to make the playoffs, this should be a Super Bowl contender. And I'm going to phrase that right now. With Deshaun on this team later in the season, if we can make the playoffs, it's a Super Bowl contender, 100%. And a huge reason why is because of our defense. Derek, who for you was the guy that you saw last game on the defensive side of the ball and you said, man, he's taken a jump and he's a true leader on this defense? Who would you say is that guy?
Well, that answer, for me, it's an entire room, but the one guy in that room that stepped up for me was Anthony Walker. I mean, for somebody who struggled a lot last year, his impact was known, and that entire linebacking room just absolutely shut down Christian McCaffrey and looked pretty damn good doing so. I was very impressed. The defensive line, I thought, actually was really, really good too. We saw some guys making plays. Taven Bryant, Tommy Togiai. Alex Wright got himself in there. Like, outside of Clowney and Garrett, other guys were producing too, which is what we need in order to be successful. And then the secondary was great. I felt like all game long, other than the busted coverage and the lack of communication, which I 100% blame Joe Woods for. There's no excuse why in year 2 with the same guys you should be having communication problems. Why is that not fixed? I do not know. But yeah, the defense, man, unbelievable. And I'm excited for Sunday because I'm expecting damn near a shutout because Michael Carter and totally forgot his name, Breece Hall, they're not Christian McCaffrey. None of the receivers on the Jets team are DJ Moore yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love Garrett Wilson, but not yet. Like, this Jets team, the offensive line is going to be without, I want to say a couple guys if I'm right, but I know they're going to be without their right tackle, big Mekhi Becton.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting this game, and then of course you got Joe Flacco. So I mean, this game should be an absolute defensive masterpiece from Joe Woods and the Cleveland Browns. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, and I don't blame you either. I mean, with all due respect to the Jets, I mean, it's just they're not there yet. You know, I really like the direction they're going. Joe Douglas has done a great job this offseason. They're just not there yet. And with this many injuries that they have at key positions, the Browns defense should shred this Jets offense. No disrespect. None at all. Like it shouldn't, like it should honestly be like a rated R game. Like this is what it should be. Like, hey, you don't let your kids watch this game. Joe Flacco's going to get beat up here, you know. Like this is the type of game it should be. But I guess going back to the previous topic about who's shown in this last game, there was a guy who I saw who very clearly made some big mistakes, was part of the busted coverages, a big part of them. But outside of that, was amazing. He was really good, in my opinion. And that's Grant Delpit. I thought that he looked great. I thought he was all over the football field. And I thought that in coverage, he was pretty solid, obviously, outside of those busted coverage plays, which I do feel like are his fault.
Do you? Because I don't entirely blame him.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the fact that the communication was an issue is an indictment on Joe Woods. But if the communication was there, right, it's Grant, you know, it's Grant's guy. But whether that's Joe Woods' fault, his fault, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know how often Joe Woods is coaching this. But
let me ask you this real quick.
Yeah.
Do you blame John Johnson for any of that? Because personally, I would throw him in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the safety group, and look, I'm only being critical on these guys for those busted coverage plays. I want to make that very clear here, because outside of that, they were flawless. They got to be better communicators. Like it's just like I look at I think it was like Tommy Tremble or whatever his name is, the tight end.
Yeah,
there's no way. Dame. Yeah, there's no way a tight end should be gashing you for 80 yards.
Yeah,
that's unacceptable. There's no way that a Baker Mayfield, like, God help me please ball should be dropping over the heads of our safeties. It's just like, that stuff just can't happen. I really hope Joe Woods irons it out, because if he does, man, he's got a great defense. He's got a great defense there. But yeah, both safeties on those plays got to be better. But outside of those plays, I thought just Grant Delpit, man, he's all over the field. Like, I don't see how, when that stuff gets cleared up with like covering deep and stuff, I don't see how, unless if you're like Tyreek Hill or one of the best receivers like Devontae Adams, like, I don't see how you're able to navigate the secondary. I really don't, because Grant Delpit, with his speed and his athleticism, on top of his instincts, and he's a powerful hitter. I mean, like, he's all over the field. Like, it's like him and JOK. It's like, what level are you attacking? Because whatever level you're attacking, if you're gonna get something, it's not gonna get far.
And let me throw this out there too. Shout out to a guy who I think me and you both have criticized. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Martin Emerson. He looked pretty good. And here's the thing: if he can hold his own, right? Because Greedy Williams didn't play Sunday. So if he can hold his own and kind of not have to require help 24/7, I would play Grant Delpit all over the field. Like, I would specifically play John Johnson middle to up on the line, in the box. And then I would play Delpit all three levels. And then I would play Ronnie Harrison a bit of all three levels, but primarily middle to up on the line in the box as well. Because if you can count on Emerson and kind of that role that he's got carved out for him, and you can have Ward Newsome do their thing, AJ Green come in, whatever. Like, I mean, good luck. Good luck with a roaming Grant Delpit, a JOK who's explosive, like you said, and all these guys. Just literally, Ward and Newsome. We know what they are. We know what they can do, and even Newsome in his second year, we know how good he is. And I only think he's going to get better. So you combine that with the fact that you got a breakout Grant Delpit, possibly a solid to really good Martin Emerson, combined with the other help that you have, get that communication right, and good luck.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, it's such an exciting secondary. Martin Emerson, if I'm not mistaken, when it came to draft time, I think I was higher on him than you were. My biggest concern with him was man-to-man coverage. I thought that as a zone corner, he was going to be really good. I actually thought about, hey, maybe he could play some free safety for us because of his size, and I felt like, you know what, maybe he's almost a better free safety because of how good he is in zone. But no, man, I mean, we talked about him as a guy that needed to improve his speed, and it feels like he's certainly done that. He doesn't look like he's, a step below NFL speed. He's at NFL speed already, and it's so exciting to see how is he going to develop from here. What could we see out of him? Because he's a big guy. He's a big physical corner, and the biggest question mark was always going to be his speed and his agility. And now, we might be jumping the gun here, but what we've seen out of him so far, I mean, he looks really promising and a really good prospect, and you can see why he's our first pick of the draft, like our first pick that we took in this year's draft. You can see why we took him.
And you're seeing the length too. That's kind of what I've been excited about.
Yes, absolutely. The length on him. It's, he's so different from every other corner that we have in that room, where it makes him have so much value to this team. And I'm very excited to see what he can do from here. So I guess, the special teams unit was great. I think we can touch on that, say that. The offensive line looks pretty good as well. Outside of a couple plays from Jedrick Wills.
Shout out to James Hudson. Held his own at right tackle.
He did. He looked fairly good there. The running backs are the running backs. We know them. They're great. Nick Chubb looks even better than before, which is ridiculous to even say that, but he looks amazing.
On special teams, real quick, Jerome Ford should be our return guy.
I can second that. Absolutely.
We love gosh, I'm terrible with names today. Felton. We love our boy Felton, but he just struggled. Just struggled. And I'm more comfortable with going with Jerome Ford.
Yeah. And I can second that. I think with Felton, it's just, get him in the slot receiver role, get him comfortable with that. I think we're throwing too much at him. I think, hey, you're a running back. Hey, no, you're not. Hey, you're a running back. Hey, never mind, you're not.
Hey, you're a returner.
And now you're a returner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, let him stick to something. Let him learn something and get comfortable in a role before you throw him into other things. Jerome Ford this year, we know he's not going to see the field a ton. Let him say to him, listen, return is your thing this year. You kill it, you're going to be in that RB2 spot next year, or in your spot. That's how I would put it.
Which that's even hard to say because, man, every time I see Kareem Hunt on the field, it's like, oh, don't leave.
Yeah, no. Pay that man. Absolutely, yeah. So I guess, are there any final thoughts you wanted to say for the review of the Carolina game?
I was very disappointed on how little our tight ends were involved and the opportunities were there. Harrison Bryant, I want to say caught one or two, couple maybe. Yeah. But if we're going to be successful as an offense, you cannot just rely on the run game, and rely on Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari in that receiver room. You got to get your tight ends involved, especially with how much motion is involved with this offense.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with that. I think that, you gave David Njoku a massive contract. Show us why. Show us why. Although he did with his blocking. Holy crap.
Oh,
man.
Yeah. He looked great.
He is, like, you could honestly argue he's a better blocker than a receiver now. Like, he's so good. He's so good.
He was terrible as a blocker coming in. Like, his first couple of years, he was awful.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he was a trash blocker, but, like, it's now like a strength of his, and that's so exciting to see out of him. Yeah, all in all, I thought it was a good performance, but I think, you know what? Let's see some more against the Jets. But before we get into the Jets, there's a couple of other things that we need to talk about. First things first, the internet goes crazy. The Browns break out the brand new 50-yard line logo, which they did not have in previous seasons. And they brought back Brownie the Elf. Brownie, he's back. And there are a lot of non-Browns fans on Twitter, on, anywhere right now, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, who are looking at this and saying, only the Browns could mess this up. What the hell, an elf, Derek, what's your thoughts on Brownie the Elf, and what's your thoughts on the public outburst attached to it?
First of all, he will never see this, but Rich Eisen, stay the hell away from anything Cleveland Browns. I'm sick and tired of our name being in your mouth 24/7 about how terrible we are, how stupid we are. I really don't care your opinion. You went to Michigan. You've been wrong on countless things. And I don't care that you got a fancy way of talking, right? Anybody can go out and buy, a fancy microphone. Like, no disrespect to Rich Eisen. You know what I'm saying? I respect the work that he puts in. He does a lot of good things. But you're not going to be right 24/7. Stop acting like it. Nobody is. That's a very big pet peeve of mine with anybody who does this sort of thing. And I know myself talking from a channel with very, very minimal viewership or listeners compared to him is very stupid. And people laugh at this. But just as somebody who's trying to do, what he does, it does bother me when you sit up here and say, nope, I'm right, you're wrong. Like, I hate that. It's just always been a pet peeve of mine. What did I think about it? I love it. I understand a bit of the criticisms because it is a little bit Mickey Mouse if you are on the outside looking in, but people don't understand our history, and to me, Brownie the Elf represents what we are. We are the black sheep of the NFL. They tried to get rid of us. We took ourselves back. What people will look at as terrible colors in brown and orange, we embrace it. We go for it. People would even say, all right, well, orange is going to be your primary color. Jeez, terrible English today. But look at it. Do we even have an orange jersey yet? No. Like, we embrace things that people would laugh at us for. That is what the city of Cleveland, Ohio represents. And to me, Brownie the Elf is something that the fan base has loved for a long, long time. And we've kind of been wanting to see more and more of it. And finally, here it is. And I've hated nothing at middle field for a long time. It just looks horrible. Put something there. I think the Browns should embrace Brownie the Elf as a logo on more things, whether it be merch, whatever. Maybe not necessarily like a uniform or helmet decal or anything like that, but embrace your history, man. Like, just because it doesn't look good to somebody else doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I feel about it. The public outcry, again, I understand, because if I knew nothing about the Cleveland Browns, I'd be like, what, an elf? And then I'd be like, oh, okay, it was a secondary logo, whatever. But it just bothers me how so many people will say things, you know what I'm saying, and not really fully understand. It's kind of like with Pittsburgh, where they wore the B uniforms for how many years. It's like, a lot of people hate it. I hate it, but you know what? That's their history. If they want to wear it, fine. Same thing with the Packers when they wore the brown and blue with the cream, whatever. Like, okay, it's not my thing, but if it's your history, go for it. Like, we are fans of our teams and our cities for reasons. And I would much rather have an elf that looks pretty solid to me on the 50 than be wearing Bumblebee uniforms. You know what I'm saying? Or terrible. I don't know. To me, it's just about history, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And I will give you two reasons why I love Brownie the Elf at the 50. Number one, it's, Art Modell took away Brownie the Elf. And Art Modell was a single.
Yeah, rest in piss, Art Modell.
Yeah, exactly. So, Art Modell took football out of Cleveland. He took the soul of Cleveland out of Cleveland. Cleveland, Ohio has always been Brownstown, no matter what. Even when the Cavs won their championship in 2018, which was an amazing day for the city of Cleveland.
2016.
And I meant 2016.
I was gonna say, I was like, I think it's been longer than that. Yeah.
Yeah. But oh man, it's been a long day. But so no, but since 2016, when in 2016 the Cavs they won their championship, right, which was a great day for the city of Cleveland. Even then, it's still Brownstown. It always has been, always will be. And Art Modell took that away from us. Brownie the Elf was a symbol of the Browns that we desire and we aspire to be. The Browns that we want back in the city of Cleveland. That's what Brownie the Elf symbolizes. A world champion of utmost class and hardworking guys who just they brought energy and they brought love to the city of Cleveland. That for me is why I love Brownie the Elf coming back. I understand some people don't think it looks great, but for us as fans, it's a lot more than just a retro. It's more than that. It's way more than that.
And I want to say this too real quick, because this is not just a Cleveland Browns thing. This is a life lesson as a whole. Stop. What point are we in the podcast? 50 minutes? Okay, I'm going to say it. Stop giving a flying fuck about what people think. All right? Who cares? Why would you care? Like, be different. Do you want to fit in and you want to be like every other boring ass team in the NFL and have the same uniform, the same logo, and just be boring? Or do you want to be different? Do you want to stand out? Yeah, I mean, standing out is a little bit, it has its negatives, right? How many people look at us and say, oh, brown and orange, ill. Elf, ill. Cleveland, Ohio, ill. But guess what? That's what makes being a Browns fan so good. That's what makes being a fan of all Cleveland sports so good, because it's like everybody else wants to write you off. Everybody else wants you to just fit in and be a part of their program. That's not what Cleveland, Ohio is, right? Look at it. How many people worked in factories and do these hard things for work, and they just want to embrace their team. They don't live in LA to go watch the Chargers, right? Who has hardly any fans. Like, you can sit here and you can talk shit about us. You can talk shit about our colors, our team, our city, our logos. Who gives a flying fuck when we win not a national championship? When we win a Super Bowl, I could care less, because it's not about fitting in. It's not about being like everybody else. Why do you think nobody cared when the Rams won the Super Bowl? I mean, come on, let's talk about it. Did anybody really care? No, not really. Honestly, I forgot the Rams won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I really only cared because the Bengals didn't. So
yeah, I mean, be different. Be different. Why do you got to fit in all the time? Like, that's not just football. That's a life lesson as a whole. Stop looking at what other people have. Stop looking at, oh, I don't look like this. I don't talk like this. If they don't want you to be like that, fuck them. Honestly, fuck them. And I have no problem saying that. If YouTube wants to get me in trouble for this, so be it. Fuck them. Because you're not supposed to fit in with everybody. Life isn't about fitting in. It's about being the best you. Same thing goes with us. Like, this is our history. This is who we are. Let's be who we are.
Yeah, exactly. And and you saying that feeds into my second reason why I love us bringing back Brownie the Elf and putting him at 50. And that's because it symbolizes exactly where we are right now in our history, as far as like current history. The public is so against the Browns right now. Nobody wants us to win. Nobody wants us to succeed. I mean, hell, Rich Eisen, I don't think he said a positive thing about Cleveland since like over a year ago at this point. So, and the criticism for Brownie the Elf, it's another symbol of, listen, we love it and we're not going to stop loving it. And this is our team. This is our team. We love it for what it is and what it has been in the past. And nothing's going to change that. Nothing. And nothing's going to change my love for the Browns. And that's because it runs through the veins of my family. Like it's what brings us together. That moment that I was just talking about earlier in the podcast where, me and my uncle are screaming up and down in his living room, hugging each other, like practically like in tears, is such an emotional moment. Just because a kicker kicked the fucking ball through the uprights,
Well,
like
Tristan, how old are
it's
you?
great.
You're younger than me, aren't you?
I am 20 years old.
Oh, you're the same age as me. Okay, so we were both 2 years old. We
Yep.
were both 2 years old, and you're gonna sit here and tell us that we can't be excited? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Come on, people.
and honestly, like, it was just such a great moment, and that's what the Browns provide us, is great moments. And I understand why the Browns got the criticism for the Deshaun Watson move. You do as well. I will never, ever, ever judge somebody for, feeling the way they do about Deshaun. But for us as Browns fans, it's felt like it's been us against the world for the past what, 8 months now, 6 months now, whatever, how long it's been.
I'd say our entire history, personally.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's certainly evidence to say that. And bringing Brownie back is another symbol of that, of us loving it while the rest of the world hates on it. So that's part of the reason why I love it. But not only is Brownie the Elf being debuted at First Energy Stadium, we are also going to see entered into the Ring of Honor the legend himself, Joe Thomas. Yes. Joe Thomas, as he deserves, is on Sunday. And this was just announced probably 10, 20 minutes before we started recording. He's a true Brown in every sense of the world, every sense of the word. Has the longest consecutive snap streak, right? The Iron Man. That's what he is. Like he is exactly what, when you describe your favorite Browns players to ever step on the field for us, they've been guys that have always played with 100% effort, 100% heart, and were always there every time when we needed them most. And that's exactly what Joe Thomas was. I could go on for hours talking about how important Joe Thomas has been to the Browns and how much of a true Brown he is. But I think everybody already knows that, Derek. Tell us why you love Joe Thomas.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we just talked about, right? Being different. Being different is something that, in my opinion, is a good thing. In some ways. Some ways it's not, right? Some ways it's not. But to me, how many teams' best player, as far as recent memory, is a left tackle? And for us, Joe Thomas suffered for how many years on bad teams, but he deserves every last bit of respect that he's going to get, and probably even more, because the work that Joe Thomas did, he's one of, if not the best left tackle of all time. I mean, he was that good. And I can't even imagine what a Cleveland Browns team right now with Joe Thomas at left tackle and Jedrick Wills at right tackle would look like. Like, can you even imagine that? So for me, I'm very happy. Joe Thomas, he's starting to pop up a lot more. He's involved with the NFL Network and things like that. So good for him. Just a stand-up dude, it seems like. I've never met him personally, but it's nice to have somebody who's kind of your guy, and Joe Thomas is our guy, and it's nice to see him getting the honor and the recognition that he deserves.
Yeah. And this year he's getting honored in Cleveland. Next year he's getting honored in Canton. Hell of a guy, hell of a Brown, Joe Thomas. Thank you for everything you've done. If you ever see this, thank you for everything you've done. And we're very excited that you're going to be going up in our Ring of Honor. Now, let's talk about this Jets game. The Jets coming to town. Cleveland's home debut. For me, very, I shouldn't say very easy preview, but a fairly easy preview.
Yeah. We
just
can keep
because.
this quick because it's super easy.
Yeah, I mean, if the Browns don't win, it's oh my goodness, it's oh, I don't even want to get into it. Honestly, it would make me sick. But when you look at all of the areas that just right now the Browns are better or further along, this shouldn't be close. It really shouldn't. And I'm excited to see how the team looks. But I'm expecting a multi-possession game, and I'm talking like 14 points, like 14 to 21 point difference by the final score. No offense to the Jets fans, we've already said this before. They're just in a different spot in their development, but it's just that's where we should be right now, especially with Joe Flacco as quarterback. I guess are there any specific talking points as it comes to the game against the Jets, that any specific matchups, any specific parts of each team that are going to be battling against each other? What to you jumps out on paper?
As far as matchups go, there's only one for me. And I trying to think now. I can't, to be honest with you, I can't even think of another matchup. And it's funny because this guy is a rookie, but the matchup to me of Sauce Gardner, matching up against both, or well, I don't know about both, but he'll be matched up throughout the game, probably against DPJ, Amari, whoever else we throw out there. Like just those matchups. He looked good in week 1. And I really want to see Sauce Gardner lined up against Amari Cooper, because you have an experienced vet who's an incredible route runner going up against a young guy who's locked down. I want to see that matchup, and I think it'll be interesting to watch. Outside of that, there's really nothing. I mean, to me, if I had to give a score prediction, I'd say 24-10 Browns. And I think it might take the Browns at least into the second half to start get rolling. Or get things rolling, but I'm expecting us to look pretty good. I'm expecting the defense to be dominant. I'm expecting the offense to just get the job done. I'm expecting a big day on the ground, and I'd like to see Jacoby be more effective. To me, that's what it comes down to. I'm not concerned at all, but Joe Flacco is experienced. That's why I do have them scoring 10 points. I think they get a field goal on us and probably score once. So that's just me.
Yeah, and absolutely, I can see that. The other matchup I want to point out for me that's very interesting, and I'd be especially interested if I was a Jets fan. How does Garrett Wilson look against former Ohio State corner Denzel Ward? That's got to be a very, very interesting one for me.
Well, not only that, if I'm not mistaken, I think Greg Newsome didn't get to match up against Garrett Wilson because he was hurt in the Big Ten title game. So this might be the first time they meet each other as well. I could be wrong. Somebody's going to have to correct me. But yeah, I know Newsome's had some injury against Ohio State specifically, so he's not gotten to really match up. So I agree with you. That will be fun as well.
Absolutely. As far as score prediction goes, I mean, I think they'll get 13 points. I think they're going to get 2 field goals and a touchdown. For us, I'd say probably somewhere in the neighborhood of I'm going to say 32. I think 32 points sounds about right. 32-13. That's what, 19-point difference. That sounds about right. So, it should not be close, really. And Cade York, I mean, outside of the PATs, he should have an easy week this week. I want him to have an easy week, especially after such an amazing first week. But final thoughts wrapping up the episode, Derek. What for you is your prediction as far as what's like a crazy prediction that you think is going to happen in the Jets game? Is there going to be one single play one guy has? Is one guy going to go off, or one guy going to step away? What's a crazy prediction for you in this Jets game?
Crazy prediction for me. Let's see. Browns defense gets 2 turnovers. And I don't even know that that's crazy. If you want to go crazy, I'd say 3. I guess another crazy prediction would be Amari breakout game because again the opportunities were there, and if Jacoby, sits down and kind of talks to him, because Ken Carmen and I can't remember if it was Carmen or Lima that said this the day after the game. It almost seemed like those two met for the first time in the huddle, So if in this time where they can go over film and everything, I could really see Amari having himself a really good game.
Okay. My crazy prediction, I've got 2. I think Anthony Schwartz is going to break off for 150 yards, no touchdowns.
Wow.
150 yards, no touchdowns. I think that both of the running backs are going to get at least 150 rushing yards.
Okay.
Those are my 2 crazy predictions. So with that, hit us in the comments with some of your crazy predictions. What do you think is going to happen in this game? Are there any parts that you think that we're missing? If you're a Jets fan, let us know. Are we disrespecting your team, or is there somebody you think is going to pop out and stand out in this Sunday's match? I guess you could say this Sunday's game. And outside of that, Derek, any closing thoughts for the podcast?
Nope. I think that'll wrap it up for me.
Yeah. And hey, I'm right there with you. I feel like we had a very, very good productive podcast today, covered a lot of things, and I'm very excited to see what Sunday brings us. So
I know.
Thankful. Oh, yeah,
I know. Kellen Mond still sucks.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to mention that. The Browns deactivated Kellen Mond to activate Isaac Rochelle.
Good. About time. They must have listened to our podcast.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
They're like, oh man, these 2 20-year-olds are just roasting us. Jeez.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
All right, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you.